What's going on, everybody? I'm Winston A, aka the Swaggy Blurred, and this is my episode 10 season finale spoiler review for X-Men 97. Oh my god, we're here, guys. It's been 9 glorious weeks, and honestly, at this point, I'm a little sad. I honestly can't believe that it's over. This show has been absolutely phenomenal from start to finish. Even at the point where you might argue that there is some people were saying the Motendo episode was kind of a filler episode, like a fun little filler episode. Even that wasn't, man. It was a finely tuned, finely crafted season of television, opening season of television, and I was absolutely blown away. Now, before we jump into the episode, if you haven't already, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell for whenever I put out content. And on top of that, please remember, this is a spoiler review. I'm not going to tell your ass again. So if you don't want to get ruined, if you don't want to get spoiled, let's say, that's the proper term, then I would say go ahead and leave and come on back in a little bit. But let's dive right into it, man. So out the gate, everybody knows that if you've been watching the intros are where all the secrets are kept. Here you see Charles and Magneto actually fighting in a war together, and that's really how they met initially and discovered their mutant powers together as they were kind of going on. Everybody knows that Charles and Magneto have had a long-standing friendship, and they met a long time ago and became best friends, and had this mission, this dream of mutants and what their life would be like in the future. And so we get to see the two of them actually sitting down once the episode starts and having a discussion about mutants, if they actually exist. And Charles actually admits to Magneto that he is a mutant. He shows him that he's a telepath, and then Magneto just says that he's able to manipulate metal. It's a very nice, quippy dialogue on how they introduce themselves. Check this out.
I'm a mutant. Telepathy, mind reader, likely can control them too, bend their will.
Metal, it bends to my will.
But then we start to realize that something is definitely amiss. This isn't necessarily a flashback. This feels like a memory. And that's when we realize that Charles is actually in Magneto's mind, what most people would have guessed one way or the other. And that's because Magneto has gone too far in ripping out Wolverine's metal, and so he has decided that he has got to take him out himself and restore the Earth to the way that it was before it ends up destroyed from the power being out that long. So you actually get to see that magnetic pulse that he sets off with Magneto's powers. But this is where things get absolutely fucking insane, because now we get to see all of the incredible cameos of the Marvel universe that exist in X-Men 97. So you see Iron Man and Captain America, who are with President Kelly, essentially representing the Avengers and what they're going to do to help protect the world. You see Daredevil actually doing what he does and being that street level hero and taking out crime while, people are deciding to riot during the power outages. You see Doctor Strange actually performing surgery while this is all going down and using his magical abilities to do so. You get to see all of these crazy cameos, and there's more to come, which is absolutely insane. But it was just so cool to see what everybody's been up to, and that reminder that we are fully connected with this 90s animated. Sorry about that. It's like 2:50 in the morning right now. But you get to see that this connected animated universe is alive and well. This is all still happening, and I love that we have fully connected all of that. So then from there, because the Magneto pulse has been set off, it actually allows for Bastion, who at this point has captured the X-Men that came to attack him, and it has allowed him to reactivate the Prime Sentinels and the Sentinels that are working right here next to him. And then you actually see those Prime Sentinels going to attack Wakanda and other major points, because Bastion actually ends up saying,
"Thus, to protect humanity, I must protect humanity from itself. From the hearts that start dripping red at the latest token underdog.
Humans are going to keep procreating, and then when they procreate, they're going to end up making more mutants. So as Master Mold has done in the past, this idea that, you know, humans and mutants are different. He's like, they're not, because they are one and the same. And so essentially the same whole thing of like, look, we just gotta deal with it. We gotta take everybody out. There are gonna be no more mutants, and essentially let's turn everybody into a robot. That's the way to do it. Master Mold plans never change. Honestly, what is it with all these robotic villains, and that they are just like, you know, Brainiac, where it's just like, I have my one programming directive, I'm just gonna do that. It's either to catalog and digitize everybody, or turn everybody into a robot and digitize them, or, you know, just put a digital virus into all their computers that just digitizes all their thoughts, you know, all the AI shit. Either way, man, we get to see even more cameos. Again, I mentioned Wakanda. We also get Cloak and Dagger, who are out here fighting some Prime Sentinels, which is pretty cool. We get Omega Red and the Winter Guard getting ready to take out some Prime Sentinels. We get Psylocke with Alpha Flight. Super dope that we get to find out that that's who Psylocke has been rolling with at this particular juncture. Right as we're like, okay, it's about to go down, we're going to see people start to scrap. That's when we actually get Jean, who had just been hardcore smacked around by a mind-controlled Cable. She revives as the Phoenix, and her first order of business after capturing Bastion is to grab Sinister and be like, you done messed with my family long enough, you done stole so many people's genetics. So she does this incredible move where she strips Sinister. She strips Sinister of all of his mutant DNA. Check this out.
All this mutant DNA you stole to stay duct taped together, young and relevant. But the Phoenix burns away the obsolete.
Please, no! Show me my face.
Looks the same to me.
Dude, that's the thing about Jean that's absolutely crazy. She always has the Phoenix Force imbued in her. The Phoenix just bonded with her so strongly that even though they have separated, fortunately for Jean, that's not something where she is fully possessed by the Phoenix Force. The power is still within her. We've been teased about this the entirety of the season. As a matter of fact, there's been a couple things we've been teased about. We got teased about that. We got teased seeing Cable fighting Apocalypse, and we're gonna get to it, but Apocalypse shows up at the end of the episode, which is fucking crazy, man. He's always around. And Sabanur, fucking ridiculous. So either way, Jean takes out Bastion, Jean takes out Sinister, and you think everything's kind of wrapping up, but ultimately what ends up happening is that Bastion is not done. Bastion, if anything, rips off Cable's arm, absorbs it into his body, and then makes a super Mecha Bastion kind of thing going on. Mecha Bastion was you know, the only cool way I could think of, I guess, talking about it. But dude, he looks ridiculous. His powers are ridiculous at this point because now he's imbued with all his tech. Again, sorry. Now 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, there's cuts. You've seen the cuts. But Mecha Bastion at this point is like, you know what? Fuck it. Like I said, I just got to take out all the humans because you're just going to make more mutants, and this is ridiculous. And once I start this Ice Age, we can go from there. So he goes up to go destroy Asteroid M. He's going to go blow up the core. Now, while this is going on, President Kelly is having a meeting with his Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's also meeting with other world leaders who are freaking out about all this and being like, you've been too kind to the X-Men. You've been too kind to these mutants. And T'Chaka, that's King T'Chaka there, not T'Challa, being like, hey, Kelly, look, man, you might have to make some hard choices. I'm not going to tell you to run your country, but if you don't do it, we might have to do it. So do what you got to do. And while that's happening, Cap tries to be like, come on. Don't do this. There's got to be another way. We got to have some faith. We got to think of this. And instead, President Kelly activates the Magneto Protocol.
We know next to nothing about Asteroid M. This could do more harm than good.
I mean, let's not pretend. I mean, Magneto, how many times has tried to take over the world or destroy the world? Of course, they had to have a plan to try and deal with him and Asteroid M at this particular point. It would be silly not to. God damn, I need some caffeine. Back inside Magneto's mind, he's still feeling like he's drowning, like he's, his mind is slipping away, but we get to see his family. This boat carries his family. You see Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch over there on the left. That person on the right in green, that's actually Polaris, that's his other daughter. And then finally you see Rogue. This is the other person that he considers family, the other person that he really truly loves. And while this is happening, man, he can't remember who he is. He starts to panic. He feels like he's gonna fall apart. He does start to remember, though, his growing up during the Holocaust and losing his parents, and how he never again. And Charles tells him, "You were not abandoned. You're not alone, and I'll never let you go. I'm here. I'm part of your family too. I will be there for you."
But I'll drown.
I have you, Magnus. I'll always have you. Even if I'm pulled under too. Together, we will resurface.
Vater, those men, the boots, they took them. Those monsters took.
And it's a very beautiful, touching moment about what friendship is. It's a very beautiful moment of how your chosen family is just as important as your blood family. The people you choose to bring into your life will be there to protect you just as much. Now, Bastion eventually shows up to Asteroid M, and the fight is on between the team up on the asteroid and Bastion. You get an awesome fight sequence where Rogue has had enough. She starts mollywopping Bastion, hits him with the Hulk clap and shit and everything. Check it out.
His name was Gambit. Remember it!
I mean, and it keeps going. Nightcrawler gets involved, teleporting all over the place. Sunspot has now become a badass and is using his powers at full capacity and everything like that, to the point where people are seeing this star in the sky, and it's just so damn cool. I think I'm gonna leave all the yawns in. I don't know. It feels very humanizing to be like, I stayed up and did this for you, your ass. But you get a really badass fight where now it's really just down to Bastion and Cyclops, and you actually get this epic DBZ beam struggle, essentially.
You'll never hurt my family again!
Feels very Cell and Gohan shit going on right now. Ultimately, as you just saw, Scott unfortunately kind of gets his ass whooped for a second, but then the whole team shows up and it's time to throw down. You've now got the whole X-Men team ready together. I see a handful of Omega Mutants in there too, so you know he's about to get his ass whooped. But ultimately, Bastion ends up gets sucked up in a portal. He had already, the core was destroyed because these missiles came through and started to destroy the asteroid, and so the Magneto protocol is blowing up Asteroid M. And in doing so, we see Jubilee getting thrown out into space, and Sunspot goes in and saves her, and you can see that love between the two of them is still there and still kindled. While this is happening, though, they don't think that they can stop the asteroid from crashing onto Earth, and they think that this might be the end of it, or if they are able to stop it, it means that they're going to have to sacrifice themselves in order to save the rest of the planet. So before that happens, Scott and Jean have a very touching goodbye with Nathan.
Nathan, I always swore I'd never repeat my father's mistake. The mistake I made when Madeline sent you into the future.
What mistake?
Not saying goodbye. I love you, son.
To be honest with you, this scene actually took me out personally. I know people have been crying at different moments. I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter. Some folks were really upset about the Charles and Magnus moment and how touching that was, which it was. Some people were crying tears of joy with, Sunspot and Jubilee and all different types of little moments. For me, I think the moment that truly got me was this goodbye. For those that don't know, I have a good relationship with my father now, but growing up was not the best. And so I have a tendency that if I see any sort of show, movie, anything like that, where it's father and son, and there's some sort of situation where essentially the father is just like, I love you, I'm proud of you, I'll always protect you, anything like that, I get pretty emotional. So Scott apologizing to Nate and being like, I failed you. I know now I had to send you to the future to save your life, but I didn't say goodbye to you. That was the mistake that was made, is I did not say goodbye to my son. I was fucked up for that, to the point where I almost missed probably the most incredible cameo and the most incredible just like door into what's going on in the rest of this Marvel universe. There's Peter Parker and Mary Jane. So for those that don't know, as the X-Men are trying to stop the asteroid from crashing into the Earth and causing a new ice age, at the end of the Spider-Man animated series from the 90s, Mary Jane's missing, and Peter's off to go find her. And we even got confirmation from Bo DeMeo that yes, Mary Jane was indeed found by Spider-Man. So here's crossing our fingers that we get Spider-Man 98. That has been the rumor that that's something that they might do. Again, while the X-Men are fighting diligently to save the world, Morph is with Logan and admits that he loves him, which you could kind of tell that was something that was going on. And it's an interesting storyline there, just from the standpoint of, with Morph being Morph, with him being essentially changeling, his identities are kind of all over the place. We've kind of got the vibe that he might identify as queer. We did get the preview beforehand, that their pronouns are they, and that again makes sense since you can be whomever you want to be. We've seen that with Mystique before. That Mystique has been with women and with men for the same reason. You can be whoever you want to be. And deeper conversations about sexuality and all that, we can talk about that too. But I think this was something that the writing was kind of on the wall. Doesn't necessarily feel like we haven't gotten a full indication that Wolverine feels the same way. It does feel like he loves Morph, but as a brother, and it feels like maybe Morph feels a little bit more. So that'll be an interesting dynamic, once we get to season 2, if that is explored anymore and to see what's going on there. But we got to see Wolverine survive first. But ultimately, we do have Magneto wake up and save the day thanks to Charles being there to support him.
Do you remember him, Magnus? Remember what he was meant to do?
Magneto lives!
And with that, there's no signal. The X-Men are lost. Now we get a moment where they say 6 months later, since the whole thing happened, like that people are pissed off at President Kelly and what's going to happen next. And we see Forge within the workshop there, and you can see over in that left-hand corner, there's a board of all the people that are missing. So it looks like Pietro and Scarlet Witch are actually off-world. They're not missing, but you see Cyclops, Professor X, Wolverine, Jean Grey, Storm, Morph, Beast, let's see, Nate, it doesn't say that he is missing, but so I can't really read what that says. But then Magneto, Rogue, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, all Sunspot, and are all has no idea where they are. Same thing it looks like with Archangel, but there's also, let's see what that's, Iceman, it looks like Havoc, Colossus, Dust, Magic, I believe that's Emma Frost, and then I can't tell the last two on the bottom row with the blue mask and what looks like the white collar. I'm not quite sure whom those folks are just from this distance. I'll see. Hopefully somebody else will know. I don't know if there's a closer picture of who that is, who those other mutants are down there. But it's super cool. We're getting to see how Forge and Bishop finally met. We've seen, if you go and watch X-Men the Animated Series, they've been working together as a duo for a while. And now we get to see it. And on top of that, when people keep asking, well, wait a minute, where is Wolverine? If you think about it, since Bishop just met Forge, and in that world, Wolverine is the one leading a resistance, and that's where he meets Bishop, and then Bishop ultimately travels back in time and all of that kind of stuff. I think Wolverine is actually still here in the present. He's just not, he's still healing. And I think what we're going to end up getting in Feral Logan will still happen. And that's ultimately, we'll go through that before we end up back in a situation where we close the time loop and the Days of Future Past episode from season 1 of the show becomes a full thing. That's my guess. Now, one of the other things that I was guessing, and here again, there's the photo of Bishop there saying that he walked in and introduced himself to Forge. Now, what we end up getting while this is happening, we end up with the teams split up into 2 different areas. We see that Scott and Jean are actually in the future in 3960 AD, and they end up seeing a young Nathan, a young Nathaniel Summers being raised here in the future. So now Jean and Scott get to actually be there through most of Nate's childhood and growing, or at least for the time being. But in the past, we actually have Nightcrawler, Magneto, Beast, Charles Xavier, and Rogue, and they run into a young Sabanur, or as people might know him, Apocalypse. And we end the show with a to be continued. Now, the one thing about the to be continued, man, there is an after credit scene. I wouldn't expect Marvel to do any less at this particular point. We go back to present day Genosha, and that is where the blue lips I just showed you, we see that Apocalypse is making a speech, and he essentially talks about how there's death everywhere.
So much pain, my children. So much death.
Picks up Gambit's Queen of Hearts card that he kept in honor of Rogue on his person at all times, implying that we are going to get the Gambit version of Death, the Horseman. And I absolutely cannot wait. I've been calling that shit for so long that is how we get Gambit back. And I didn't want him back this season for that exact reason. Do not take away the emotional weight of his death from episode 5, which was apparently put up for consideration for an Emmy, by the way, and I hope it fucking wins, because that episode of television was phenomenal. But to know that we are going to go down that storyline of getting Gambit back as the Horseman of Death is absolutely incredible. And I think then the storyline that you get is once Rogue comes back, that her quest to save her man, to get him out of that brainwashing and to bring Gambit back, I think that'll be a very powerful storyline, and I cannot wait to see that happen. All that being said, man, I think this was a perfect ending to a perfect season of television. I'm giving this episode a 5. I'm giving the whole season a 5. Now, while every episode wasn't that high, there is nothing about this that at any point was like, oh man, this is all, like, this was flawlessly done in my personal opinion. You might feel differently, and I want to know what you think in the comments, so definitely let me know about that. But I think that honestly, we have not seen this out of Marvel, this kind of top to finish polish, just like perfection, since I would argue Infinity War and Endgame. Now, I think that No Way Home is fantastic. I think there's a number of different movies and shows. WandaVision. I personally liked Eternals. I know other people didn't. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Wakanda Forever. There's been a number of like really great hits and them getting it. But I think the thing is, I could say something about every single one of those films or those TV shows where there's something kind of lacking or doesn't have the quite perfection that honestly Infinity War and Endgame did from top to bottom, as that long story, if you consider them just one big movie. Just really well done. You found a way to bring all those characters and make them relevant. You had emotional weight throughout. I got the same vibes and the same feels. And ironically, it's about the same amount of time. Infinity War and Endgame are both about 3 hours, so you're looking at about 6 hours there. We had 10 episodes at 30 episodes apiece, so about 5 hours for this season. So they're about the same length. And knowing that, they were both done expertly. They really, really were. And I can't think of another time that Marvel has been talked in this kind of esteem since then. Doesn't mean people weren't rocking with some of those movies and TV shows. I said people were geeking out about it for sure, but there's been enough ups and downs and highs and lows that it's made people just kind of like, okay, sure, yeah, all right, we're still kind of here. But this is the type of thing that reinstills faith, and I think going right into Deadpool and Wolverine, especially knowing that that's then more X-Men stuff being involved, this is what people need. This is the breath of fresh air that will breathe life back into Marvel and into the MCU. So again, I want to know what you think. What were you most excited about? What are you expecting for season 2? I'm going to do some videos about some of the stuff that was going on in the next coming days. We'll talk about Mayo. Again, killed this season. It was absolutely phenomenal. Let's talk about what happened and, you know, should he potentially be brought back? I want to talk to y'all about that. I want to talk about predictions for Deadpool and Wolverine. Also, I forgot to mention, so starting, I want to say this weekend, I need to check the calendar, and I'll be able to tell you that on Twitter. I'm going to be doing my for my patrons. I'm reviving my Patreon, and I'm going to be doing watch-alongs of all of the Fox Universe films leading up into Deadpool. Probably be doing 2 a weekend so that we have enough time to finish them all. And then I will include my reviews and all of that here on the page for everybody. But if you want to watch it with me, you want to get my in real-time reactions to those films, you'll definitely want to check out the Patreon tiers and see which one works for you. Again, give it a little bit of time. This is Wednesday. I'll probably have that up come like Thursday or Friday. I just got to get some other work done first. And then we'll jump right into that and talk about all that. And finally, I would appreciate joining the Patreon if that's something you're interested in. But I would just appreciate you hitting that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so then that way whenever I put out content, you know what is going down. So with all that, y'all, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go lay down. I love y'all, man. Y'all be safe and just remember. Da 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 da.